Fast am I, good afternoon. Welcome along to Manx Radio's Mannin Line for a Friday. Alex in the chair, through until 1 o'clock when it's an open line for you to give me a call on any topic that's getting your goat. 66 13 68. Do give us a call. Finally, the texts are working again. Only took a day and a half. Thank you, Manx Telecom. Speedy service. Now, what would you like to talk about today? Are you a parent of a school leaver today? Because there's a warning out to keep it safe and responsible if you're partying this evening. What did you get up to when you left school? Or the steam packet prices? I'd love to hear your opinions on any topics that are hitting the news headlines, or any other topics, quite frankly. 66 13 68. Do give us a call, or text 166 177, and we will do our very best to get them on air. What's this? Thank you very much to texter 785. Who says, is it wrong that residents on this island have to wait 3+ weeks for a GP appointment or queue several hours at the overstretched A&E department when it looks like residents in our prison have no such wait? Oh, well, that's an interesting point. I don't actually know that, but if it sent me a link to do with government jobs in the civil service and a prison general practitioner lead. Oh, there we go. In fairness, the prison would have a GP. Whether they have such a wait, I don't know. But thank you very much. Francis has sent in a text saying government should help out with the 25% fuel surcharge from the steam packets. It's unfair that they say it's an arm's length company like the Manx Care and Manx Development Corporation, who are also FOI exempt. Yeah, that's very interesting, isn't it? When you can't have one case for one and not for the other unless you're trying to preserve your taxpayer-funded free travel. Francis, any evidence of free travel, or is this just gossip because you're feeling bitter? Okay, I see the point of the fact that the steam packet is wholly owned by the government. The steam packet and the Treasury, as the shareholders, could turn round and say, lower your prices. Okay, they could. But the question is, the steam packet was bought by the government. Is it a business that they invested in wanting a return? At the moment, we haven't had a huge return from the steam packet because they've been quite open the fact that they're saving up for a new boat, and these ferries cost 100 million quid. So, someone's going to have to pay for it. Now, the question is, and the fuel surcharge is nothing new. It's been in place, or the ability to charge a fuel surcharge has been in place for a number of years. But is it a case that do the government have to say, well, this is going to harm the economy more by charging this fuel surcharge than if we had to support the additional costs of fuel? I don't know. Belly the plumber says, is the fun fair coming over this TT so I can start saving up for some candy floss? Well, I do not know, but I'm sure someone can tell me. If anyone knows of the fun fair coming over, pretty sure you can get candy floss year round, depending on where you are. Right, let's try and go to the phone lines. Andrew is on wanting to talk about the medical evacuation. Andrew, are you there? Oh, phone line number 3. The scary phone line number 3 does its same thing again. Do you know what? I'm going to do what everybody does with computers. I'm going to turn it off and turn it back on again and see what happens and see if we can find Andrew. Whilst we do that, let's have a look. Oh, there we go. That seems to have come out, but a much nicer colour. Andrew, let's try again. Are you there?
Hi, Alex. Good day to you.
Good day. Sorry about that. The usual tech gremlins, yes.
And I did ask, because Michelle said you're on line 2, and I did say to her, oh, no, please. I don't want to end up like David Quirk in more ways than one.
I couldn't possibly comment. Fire away. What would you like to talk about?
A medical evacuation, please, and I won't mention the names, but this is a very disturbing story and report that yesterday one of our young teenagers suffered an incident at the NSC which ruptured his hand. He had to go to Nobles, was told on the way likely to have air med evacuation, got to Nobles and was confirmed, yes, need to be evacuated to Liverpool. We don't have anybody here qualified to deal with this. And, there's no helicopter available at the moment. Right, okay. So they then put him on the boat.
Right. Andrew, can I ask, in terms of this information, where's this information from?
First hand from one of the very close relatives.
Right, okay. And
he's currently in theatre in Liverpool now, and the surgeons have said when he arrived, because he came by boat, we have to be touch and go now what we can do. And the hospital said, but we didn't even know he was arriving. But this has happened on a number of occasions. The Isle of Man have put patients on the boat for medical transfer because they're saving money.
Now, do we know it's because of saving money, or is it the fact that there wasn't a flight or helicopter available? Because you can put two and two together to make three there.
I know.
Yep.
Yeah, but this is what has been relayed from the hospital in Liverpool.
They say it's because of saving money.
Correct.
Right.
This is what the Isle of Man Hospital are now doing. They're not using patient transfer. They're putting people on a boat. And it's taken 12 hours for this guy to get to theatre.
Obviously,
I wrong.
Can't. Well,
That's
as I say,
wrong.
We can't comment on the individual case, obviously.
We can't.
But,
no.
But in terms of,
believe that in that period, a helicopter would not have been made available.
Well, are we talking about the North Air Ambulance Service here, as opposed
Correct.
to? Yeah, okay.
Correct.
Well, if anyone from the Department of Health, is aware of the circumstances, I don't want to go into the individual circumstances, but in terms of that claim from the UK hospital that the reason that people are not receiving medical treatment quick enough in the UK is because we're saving money on transport, that's putting money before lives, isn't it?
Correct, potentially, or permanent disability.
Okay. Well, if any...
Thanks, Alex.
Thanks very much, Andrew. And, I lay the gauntlet down. Claire Christian, this is, under your brief in terms of the political member. I don't expect the minister to have that information to hand straight away. But, Claire Christian, if you're listening, come on, answer up. Show some accountability, please. We'd like to know, is this happening? Or, flip it on its side, is this 1 and 1 making 3? Are we putting people on the boat, which is possibly leading to a worse condition when they should be rushed over to the UK by air, purely to save money? And if so, have we really got to that stage on our island where actually we're putting people's lives at risk because we haven't got enough money? Really? Are we at that stage? Which is what Andrew's claiming there. I'd love to know. So if anyone from Department of Health, Manx Care, wants to comment on it, please do so on that claim there. Mark is on the line. He's been waiting patiently. Hello, Mark.
All right, Brinders, how you doing, fella?
I'm not so bad, fella. How are you?
Good. Right, listen, I just want to confirm what you started the programme with, that little vignette where you said about prisoners get preferential treatment on this island. I used to work for a company that operated the prison transfer system, i.e., you got done in court, you got sent to prison, you came to court, you got picked up, and I can confirm that is the truth.
Okay. Any
prisoner will get preferential treatment, whether it's for toothache or crown, even podiatrists, if they got something wrong with their foot, broken bones, or they ever cut themselves, they need medical treatment, they need an x-ray, a prisoner will be picked up at the prison at about 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. They will be seen by 10 o'clock and they will be shipped back to the prison by 11.
When you say, no, because the comment we started the show was that there is a GP on hand at the prison, not necessarily where they get preferential treatment. It was more about the waiting time. Now, in terms of your transport, can I ask, was it a case of that did you know that these people hadn't been waiting in order to be fitted into the queue, or is it a case of they obviously book them out at a certain time and then book them back so they're not out for long, effectively?
What would happen is you'd be sat there and you get a phone call from the prison saying we've got such and such needs a crown filling, needs a crown doing. You'd go and pick him up, you take him to the dentist, you'd have his crown fit, and then you'd take him back. There was no waiting. There was no, it's going to take 6 months for you to do this. It was the same with x-rays, broken bones, cuts, anything like that. You'd get a phone call saying, we've got a prisoner that needs to go to A&E. And because of the very nature of who you are, we stood out like a sore thumb in our uniforms, and you got yourself manacled to a prisoner, you didn't have to wait.
Oh, I see your point there, yeah.
Immediately.
I was going to say, because in terms of when they call you and this person's needs a crown, or you wouldn't be, you wouldn't know how long that person has waited. That's not information you'd be would have a notice of.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah, but I see your point from an A&E perspective. It's a case of they get them in, they get them out, and then they get them shipped back off. So. Okay,
yeah, because basically they didn't like them hanging around too long because some of them could be quite volatile.
Yeah.
But in general terms, you would get a call. It was called the emergency run, and we would take people up there with ingrowing toenails, and we'd take people up there that had a what do you call it? They'd slipped on the stairs and perhaps had chipped a finger. No, that's like that. Broken a finger or something. I mean, everything had to be dropped, and these people. Most of them were very, very nice, I'll be quite honest, but you did have a couple who basically just abused the system to get a day out.
Yeah.
But the point of the matter I'm trying to make, Alex, is that anybody up at the Derby Hilton would get preferential treatment over anybody. I've been waiting 2 years for a dental appointment and I still can't get one. But I bet if I went into prison tomorrow I'd get one. And I don't think that's right, mate.
Do you know what? I wouldn't advise you try it, just in case.
No.
All right.
Hey, come up and threaten Alex Brindley with a shotgun and see what happens.
Please don't. Thank you very much. All right, cutting him off.
I won't, mate.
Thanks, Mark. Cheers.
See you later.
Oh, crikey. Right, yeah. Mark, you're going to behave yourself in future on that one. Right, let's have a look at some of your messages that are coming in. Texter 376 says, Next is saying it's leaving the island because of rent increases. Surely it's better to have some rent than have a huge building sitting there empty. That's not how business works, 376, and you know that. It's a bit like walking into Tesco's and saying, I'll tell you what, that bottle of wine you got for 10 quid, I'll give you 2 quid, and it's much better you having 2 quid than nothing at all. So you can see that point. And we had the statement yesterday, didn't we, that Next are only willing to pay a third of their rent, according to the property owner. I can see from a business perspective that's perfectly acceptable to turn around and go, well, no, this is the price. Okay. Thank you very much to Anne-Marie on WhatsApp, who says, I think the steam packet's a joke. The prices are awful. They say kids are free, but they aren't. But if you could back that up a bit more for me, that would be good. It was Easter bank holidays recently. We wanted to go away, and the prices were so expensive that you can't. You really need to sort this fuel issue out too. Well, the fuel surcharge is in addition to the pricing structure, so that is the question. I mean, the steam packet, it is a vital lifeline. It does cost money, and we have a population of 85 circa thousand. So the question is, for a ferry service which is maintained on, let's say, 2 main ferries that costs a circa 100 million each. Now the government bought it. The government needs its money back. It's cost about 200 odd million circa. They've invested in this ferry company. Now you can cut back the amount of profits it makes by lowering all their prices. But that means that your government, that was expecting an income in order to pay for things like Manx Care and other health services, etc., will not be getting that income in the long term. But it does mean you'll be getting away for cheaper. And likewise, the freight for cheaper. So that's the balancing act that somebody has to make a call on. As in, do we reduce costs to boost the economy? Or do costs remain as they are, or prices remain as they are on the steam packet, which allows the business to operate successfully and then the government to benefit from that in the longer term? I don't have the answer for it, obviously, but that's what I suggest. Let's have a look. Gaz in 313. We haven't heard a squeak from government about Manx Telecom being taken over. I hope the Isle of Man government will not be responsible for the pension pot if the buyer asset strips the company. Well, I'm obviously not aware of anything to do with the pension pot, but yeah, Manx Telecom, it's now effectively owned by the Jersey government. Now, it's been quite obvious to anyone who listens to Manx Radio. Our texts at the Manx Telecom end, we reported them as not working yesterday morning around 9 o'clock, and they only came back on at 11 o'clock this morning. And who are they answerable to? Well, the government in Jersey, effectively, now own Manx Telecom. Not even our own government. I'll say no more. Peter, who's texted in 005, says the Great North Air Ambulance cannot and does not fly during dark hours. So Andrew's comment before about how the helicopter can't work it, well, that's probably why, Andrew, is that the Great North Air Ambulance cannot and does not fly during dark hours. But I'd imagine that the comment still stands in terms of are we putting people on the boat because it's cheaper when they really should be flown over. If you've any thoughts on that, do let me know. 166 177 is the text number. Or, of course, you can call 66 13 68. Let's get back to the fuel surcharge story then. It's easy for me to say, isn't it? As you might have heard on Manx Radio, the Chamber of Commerce has urged the government to consider intervening in order to subsidise fuel costs that are incurred by the steam packet, because it's out of their hands, let's be honest. The move is in a response to the 25% freight surcharge introduced by the company at the start of April, and it follows a survey of the Chamber's membership which backs government intervention. And Simon Richardson has been taking up the story for us.
The war in the Middle East shows no sign of ending anytime soon, with both sides in the conflict unable to find any room for compromise. As a result, the shockwaves from the closure of the Strait of Hormuz continue to be felt around the world. For many companies in the Isle of Man, already struggling in the face of adverse economic headwinds, the addition of a substantial surcharge for the movement of freight on and off the island could prove a step too far. 15.5% of respondents to the Chamber of Commerce survey said the extra financial burden could force them out of business. 88% reported a negative impact. I've been speaking to Chamber Chief Executive Rebecca George, who says the survey shows real concern among business owners.
Chamber's heard very clearly from its members on this. We've spoken about this many times, that businesses are under real pressure, and surcharge just adds to that. We recognise that the steam packet is operating in a really challenging global fuel environment as well. So this is not about the steam packet. This is about pressures across all entities, members and the steam packet. This message comes straight from our members, and there is clear evidence that it does affect costs, pricing decisions, and in some cases growth plans.
Were you surprised by the strength of the response to the survey?
No, I wasn't. As I say, it's just another increased cost pressure on top of everything else.
Point is made that the company is government-owned. Now, from that survey, there seems to be a groundswell of support for some sort of governmental intervention to help meet some of the extra costs.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you look at Ireland, it's a really good example. The Irish government, they've stepped in with fuel duty cuts and targeted support for transport and key sectors to manage the impact rather than just passing it straight through to the businesses. So, our ask is to say to government whether they can consider temporary fuel duty reductions to increase the pressure. That would give a wider economic impact, not just for business, but for everybody.
Now, returning to the survey itself, 88% of respondents say they've been adversely affected by the freight surcharge, and 15.5% fear it could actually threaten the viability of their businesses. So this is serious stuff.
Yeah, it is. I think we need to look at what these additional costs actually are with the fuel duty increase. But every increase in costs impacts businesses, whether it's through freight or fares.
Now, given the current fuel crisis generally and the rising cost of heating oil and gas, do you think government's been sitting on its hands hoping desperately for an end to the Iran conflict, so in fact it doesn't need to get involved with financial support measures?
I know that the government have a task force set up to keep checking view of the impacts of what's going on in the Middle East. I don't think it's going anywhere soon, unfortunately. So I think we need to be prepared for the long haul. Global impacts seem to happen much more regularly now than they ever did. There always seems to be something happening globally that affects the Isle of Man. And ultimately, this is why conversations around protecting our island through energy security, food security is really important, because that will create a more stable island for us.
And to conclude, I understand the Chamber's seeking an urgent meeting with government in the wake of your survey.
Yes, we've written to the Treasury Minister, the DfE Minister and the Chief Officers to ask if we could have a discussion about what government are considering in terms of supporting around fuel duty.
For the steam packet company, the scale of the problem is clear to see. Fuel costs are double what they were at the end of December. And it points out that the fuel surcharge is nothing new and has been around for over 20 years, either under the original user agreement and the more recent Tynwald-approved Sea Services Agreement. It's described as a non-profit mechanism, which is independently verified by the DOI. Fuel charges are indeed a common measure adopted by the travel industry to help protect service delivery during periods of fuel price unpredictability. But the fact is that the government is the owner of the island's lifeline ferry company, and in the view of the business community, it must step in to ensure the services continue without causing huge damage to the business community. Manx Radio has asked government for comment and awaits a response.
Thanks very much, Simon Richardson, reporting there for Manx Radio. So what's your opinion on this? Should the government step in or should we, the users, effectively have to pay? Now, let's be honest. Government money is our money anyway, so it's all very cyclical, really, if you think about it. But should the government have to pay to basically buffer the steam packet for this extra fuel costs that have been incurred? Or should we have to continue to pay it through things that are happening at the till? So let's be honest, I'll take an example for you. The food that comes over on Tesco's, for example, are you happy for it to go up 25% in order to pay for the fuel that gets it here? Well, I'd be interested in your opinion. 66 13 68.
Hello, I'm BethSB.com, Manx Radio's head of biker podcasts. In this general election year, Manx Radio will have an almost interminable number of programmes in the run-up to the big day when you can choose who to bin off. And for the first time, we're also hosting a live show aimed at helping all those tens of young and first-time voters, or those who've just forgotten, through the complex issue of voting. That is, confirming your name and address, stepping into a cubicle and putting an X next to the name of someone you think isn't going to be completely useless. So join us at IM1 Voting for Dummies, live at the Peel Centenary Centre from 7:30pm on the 16th of May. Tickets available online at centenarycentre.com, from Celtic Gold in Peel or OMA in Ramsey. Voting for Dummies, laughing in the face of democracy.
A Hyacinth and Richard Bouquet invite you to one of their famous candlelight suppers aboard one of our trains. Onslow and Rose are coming along too, so let's see if the night runs smoothly. Don't miss Comedy Candlelight Supper, Friday the 3rd and Saturday the 4th of July, departing at 7pm. To book, call 697 457 or visit rail.im.
So, June, you finally took my advice and went for Spectrum windows for your home improvements.
Well, with their quality and price, I couldn't refuse. Along with great service from planning to completion, you get all the latest innovations in roofing and glazing.
Oh, June, don't tell the missus that yours are better than ours.
Oh, don't worry, Jeffrey. Yours still look as good as new. They're still A-rated and they're guaranteed for 10 years.
Visit Spectrum Windows, the showroom, Derby Road, Ramsey, or call 817777.
Simply income protection from Kestrel Insurance. A choice of benefits. Simple underwriting and peace of mind with a regular income for up to 2 years if you're unable to work due to illness or injury. Kestrel Insurance is registered with the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
For a wide range of wood-burning stoves and a complete installation service, visit The Snug in Ramsey. And we don't stop there. Kiln-dried firewood and full aftercare service, including chimney sweeps and maintenance. Call The Snug in Ramsey.
Ambitions Recruitment Consultants, covering all business sectors in the Isle of Man. Register online or email your CV to info@ambitions.co.im or ring 614 841. Ambitions, for all your recruitment needs, however big or small.
If you run a small business or just need more room in the back, Philshaw Vehicles has the perfect van or light commercial for all your needs and can sort out any finance. Based in the Tremode estate, view philshawvehicles.im or call 49 51 49.
The Nation Station, Manx Radio.
Manx Radio's Mannin Line for a Friday afternoon. It's at 12:30. Half an hour left. If you want to give me a call on any topic, it's an open line. You can do. 66 13 68. Let's have a look through some of your messages this afternoon. Pablo says, afternoon, Alex. In terms of patient transfer, I wish that young man a speedy recovery, but there was also a medical emergency early this morning with the Douglas Coast Guard attending Nobles for the Coast Guard helicopter to transfer a patient to Liverpool, so I can't understand what Andrew said. Well, this is why I did challenge Andrew on the fact of where did you get this information from, because that there is a difference between I've been told and I've been told to actually verified factual information, which is, of course, what we are held to account on in terms of regulation. So more digging into that would be interesting to know. Big John in Ramsey is back on with his daily update. Big John is a big supporter of green energy. Says, unfortunately, people at Erie Stane will lose value on their homes. This is to do with the wind farm. So, unfortunately, any comments from Erie Stane residents are prejudice. The residents have a vested interest. Yes, they will do. And you don't have a right to a view either when it comes to your property. So, there is... When people complain about the Erie Stane wind farm, there is an element of NIMBYism, not in my backyard. And I'd imagine everyone would be the same if it was happening to you, if something was being built. Let's use something, an example such as a sewage plant being built just on your back garden. No one really ever likes the idea of those being built right next door to them, do they? Let's have a look. D says... the Great North Air Ambulance helicopter is for life-threatening illnesses and injuries, not a non-life-threatening isolated injury. As to why our own air ambulance plane wasn't suitable or available is possibly a question to be asked, as it's quicker and more comfortable for the patient. However, the injury would have been fully assessed here at Nobles and then discussed with Aintree Hospital an appropriate timeline given regarding the transfer. Most injuries are added to the next day's theatre list unless time critical and limb viability issue, says D. So thank you very much for that. Once again, D, you see, the details, this is what I'm challenging Andrew for, the details are very, very important. Also regarding the story about the prison doesn't employ general practitioners, they employ advanced practitioners, which are usually nurses, paramedics with advanced training and skills. All right, well, thank you very much for that. That puts a bit of colour to the story. Thank you to Eugene, who's been on, saying, in terms of steam packet fares, return travel to Ireland in midsummer 2025 was £340 for 2 adults and a car, and has increased about £50 in the last 4 years. I don't believe this is bad value. I do think that this year's fares will be much increased given the increase in fuel. Thank you very much for that one, Eugene. Once again, if you've got any opinions, it's very unusual to have someone actually say that the price increase on the steam packet isn't bad. So thank you for your message there. Do get in touch. Let me know if you think fuel prices or steam packet prices are valid. Ian's been on saying, hi Alex, lots of talk of surcharges and the Iranian war. Just a heads up, BP's profits have tripled in the last month. Have a nice day. Thank you very much, Ian. You too. That is one point that everyone holds up as being ethically questionable. But yet, during wartime, there are people who profit. The military machine, I think, is what they call it in the military industrial complex, is what they call it in America, isn't there? Someone will be profiting somewhere from the fact that we are paying more. The question is, how do you expect, when it comes to the fuel surcharge, are you expecting our government to be able to soften that blow to allow the economy to weather the storm, especially in a small economy like ours, compared to possibly the UK? Let's have a look. H says we shouldn't be wasting taxpayers' money on taking people to court for carrying small amounts of cannabis for personal use. It should be the same as carrying a bottle of alcohol. Of course, the talk about cannabis and whether it would be legalised for recreational use is something that's been in the news recently, and whether Dr. Alex Allinson is suggesting a citizen jury follow this up. Now, a citizen jury, as in people from society who are there to represent the opinions on others. Do we need a citizen jury? Isn't that what we pay our MHKs for? Isn't that their point of existence? I mean, this came up with the horse tram argument the other day. if that Tynwald, which is made up of our MHKs and our MLCs, but if those political members are put there to make decisions and they make a decision, and for example with the horse tram business case we were talking about on Wednesday, if Treasury can turn around and say no, what is the point of an MHK? If there's an MHK listening, let me know, because you don't all seem to be up in arms about the fact that you regularly get ignored by Treasury or officials. You know, Tynwald tells them to do something and they go, nah. And MHK just sit back and go, oh, well, it's okay. It's the Treasury Act that lets them do that. What is the point of you? Why are we paying you £70,000 a year to sit there if you're not kicking and screaming when government does not do as Tynwald tells it? I would love to know. Anyway, let's have a look. What else have we got here? It's very quiet on the phones today. I've obviously scared everybody off. And Andrea says, a helicopter came in and out overnight today when it was dark. Thanks, Andrea. That's off the back of that comment that someone says that the air ambulance couldn't come in the dark. I think it was Peter. I think we might have a bit of confusion between the Great North Air Ambulance and a helicopter or patient transfer service. But still, we would like to get to the bottom of the comment that Andrew made a little earlier. Thank you very much to 762. Says, how about turning the next store into a horse tramway museum? Government could make money back by charging an entrance fee and having a small gift shop selling socks and sandals, or stale sarnies in a brown paper bag, just like the B&B landladies used to make. Very good, thank you. And Texter 100 says, the taxpayer pays for a new boat, then pays for a new landing stage in Liverpool, and then the steam packet doubles the fares. Bargain. Well, in terms of the Manxman, she was paid for by a loan from the government, of which the steam packet is paying back with interest. And the new boat, as I say, that the steam packet are looking to pay for that themselves through fares. But yes, I suppose any business would be. But yeah, you could say that our sea links generally have cost us a lot of money. But in fairness to the steam packet, the ferry terminal in Liverpool was not their idea. The blame of spending near what is estimated as being £100 million lies at the door of the DOI. So that you can't blame that one on the steam packet. Texter 004 asks a very good question. Have Mezeron in Ramsey added such a surcharge? If not, why don't the bigger companies use Mezeron to import their products? Well, of course, Mezeron did set up that container service a few years ago, didn't they? That was effectively in competition with the steam packet for a while, operating out of Douglas. I'd imagine that the bigger companies, part of the problem is they want their roll-on, roll-off. They want to be able to drive their lorries on and off the boat in good time, not have them lifted on and off with containers, which is costly, it's slow. And in terms of the link spans that allow you to do that, in Douglas, one's owned by the steam packet and the other one is owned by the government, which has it on a sea services agreement with the steam packet. So where are you going to berth? Right, let's have a look. Quite a lot of text coming. This is good. Bob says, whilst undergoing prostate cancer treatment, a nurse at Nobles told me that Nobles do not communicate with Clatterbridge Hospital, whereas I was going to have my prostate removed. I asked her, surely you're joking? And she said, no, this is down to cost. That's interesting. I mean, what was the cost of communicating with Clatterbridge? I'd like some more details on that, Bob, but thank you very much for that. Let's have a look. 601. Good afternoon, Alex. Is there perhaps any chance that the steam packet can possibly be fair to their captive audience, the Isle of Man, by maybe offering a free trip for every 5 trips so that people can take their vehicles away as a loyalty scheme? Just a thought. Thanks, Di. You mean Sail and Save? Yeah, we used to have a loyalty scheme, didn't we? I think that was in the early days of Sea Containers ownership. Yeah, you had 5 tickets, and then you got the average of what you spent. You got the money off a 6th ticket. So in theory, if you're going away quite regularly, you get a free trip. I do remember there was talk about there being some sort of loyalty scheme for the steam packet, but there's not one come to fruition yet. But yeah, there's a suggestion that maybe go back to the old idea of a Sail and Save scheme. Who knows? Steve H. in Onken says, Alex, it was reported in online media. What you mean is it was speculated on social media. But thank you, Steve, for thinking that online is factual. That a patient was transferred by helicopter from Nobles to the UK at 3:30 this morning. So emergency helicopters do fly during the hours of darkness. Thank you, Steve. Yeah, I do think a lot of this is the Peter's comment about whether it's the Great North Air Ambulance or it's whether it's a helicopter or patient transfer. They are two different things, so thank you for that. Alex, regarding the Manx Care advert for a GP on 150,000 for 150 patients at the Isle of Man prison, don't they already have an extensive full-time healthcare team at the prison? What about the taxpayers who have to wait forever to get a GP appointment? It's a good point. I don't know about the healthcare team at the prison. I don't know if it's, a nurse standing there with a box of Elastoplast or a full service team. I don't know. But I would love to find out if anyone's got further information. Gary in Ramsey says, hi, Alex, maybe like the Irish, we should block the ports and roads to the airport to get the results we want. Oh, and by the way, I was in Ireland when that was happening. And their next big one is against immigration. But the mainstream media, of course. The mainstream media is trying to hide it all. Well, I've just announced it on mainstream media, so there we go, Gary. But that is, I think, we are a very compliant society over here. We normally have little polite protests, don't we, outside of Tynwald? And that occasionally is pretty much it. Whereas, yeah, you can't deny it. In Ireland, the French are very good at this as well. Oh, the French love going on strike and blocking roads and stuff. And I'm not suggesting we do that. But that is a point that people say, maybe we should do this. Is that going to actually get you the desired result? I don't know. And Desmond says, I live in Peel and I object to the windmills everywhere. Okay, Desmond. Thank you very much. G says, tell me not to upset snowflakes. Oh, what did I say that upset snowflakes? I can't remember now. Probably said something. Normally when I open my mouth, I upset somebody. Ali has been on, says, no, Alex, we need things like citizen juries. You're supporting an autocratic regime, just what government want. Comyn has huge powers, as it is us and members of departments voting in line to support their political careers. That's why the island is in the mess it's in. I'm not supporting an autocratic regime. I'm supporting democracy. That's the whole point. We're meant to have them there, isn't it? Now, I'm possibly suggesting that it's not working, but surely the idea of citizen jury is just the same thing. You're putting people from everyday life. You're suggesting. Who would choose the citizen jury? Would it be your suggested autocratic regime, or would it be the rest of us voting for them? Because surely then that. Just MHKs, we were doubling up and wasting money. I don't know. But thank you very much. And the 942, did the two MHKs who are sitting in the Maldives this week pay a fuel surcharge? In her own words, they have to pay to stay an extra 3 days for a holiday. There were two MHKs in the Maldives, weren't they, for the Commonwealth? It's the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, I think, isn't it? I don't know. I would imagine yes. The whole idea, I remember years ago when I worked at the steam packet, that a number of people used to come in and go, oh, the MHKs, they all get free tickets. And you go, no, they don't. It's a lovely conspiracy, but yeah. And Manx Will says, hi, Alex, the Mesron boat loves to take our plantations away so they can move big stuff. Do we know what we were paid for the plantations wood? That's a good point, actually. Yeah, Euroforest, I think, was the signs that were everywhere, weren't they? That we sold off the plantations to, the one above Ballure there, for a start. I don't know what was paid for the plantations. Mesron didn't pay for it, of course. They were the carrier. And it plays into my point. Yeah, if it's not a speedy transfer of freight, so if it's something that can take its time, like obviously chopped wood, yes, of course, Mesron can take it. I'm talking about things like your perishables and your Marx's orders and your Tesco and things like that. But in terms of the plantations, I was very sad to see them chopped down, but they are plantations. They are a crop. We don't really have forests on the Isle of Man. We just have plantations. They were planted as a crop, and they are harvested as a crop and sold on like any farmer would. Okay, they're admittedly owned by the government, but yeah, that's why the plantations were chopped and sold off, Will. Thank you to Sandy, who says, Alex, you're talking about a steam packet loyalty scheme. There is nobody to be disloyal with. So, of course, you have to be loyal to the steam packet. I suppose in terms of cars, yes, you've got a point there, he says with a wry smile. But you can travel by airline, I suppose, if you're a foot passenger. But thank you very much for that. Right, you've had enough of me waffling. It's very quiet on the phone. 66 13 68. You've got a few minutes left after this if you want to get a call in on any topic you like.
We are number one. We are family run. Mike's Motors. Mike's Motors.
Don't let the building works fool you. Mike's Motors in Castletown is open as usual. We've got around 20 camper vans and motorhomes in stock, plus a great selection of automatic cars. So buying or selling, make Mike's Motors your number one choice. Pop in for a browse, a brew, or even a quick snooze in a motorhome.
Mike's Motors.
Open as usual at Station Garage, Castletown.
TE Cubban provide new memorial stones, grave renovations, new inscriptions and fire hearths. Visit us at Hope Street, Castletown or at Broadway, Douglas, or call 844 440. TE Cubban, here when you need us.
Mega offers on Waltons this Saturday and Bank Holiday Monday. Mega offers on in-stock TVs. In fact, offers throughout the electrical store. Come to Waltons on Isle of Man Business Park opposite Robinson's, or check out Waltons online for our latest offers. Waltons Mega offers this Bank Holiday.
Charity of the Week, brought to you by Kell Properties.
Rob Vine Fund provides emergency medical support, training and equipment across the Isle of Man. We aim to expand life-saving services through funding and partnerships. We're seeking community support, volunteers and donations to grow our impact. To get involved or learn more, visit our website robvinefund.im or call 628 999. Together we save lives.
This advert is brought to you by Kell Properties.
Have your say. Further meetings and hearings for the Moor Vannin offshore wind farm application will take place from the 11th to the 14th of May. Letters of invitation have been sent by the independent examining body to the principal stakeholders in the application. Register at least 1 week in advance to secure your place. To read the letter and for more details, visit the Moor Vannin project page at mima.gov.im. It's time to have your say.
When the Mannin Line's not on air, call Manx Radio to leave your opinion for broadcast on 682 631.
Yes, you can do that. You've got a few moments left if you want to comment on anything that's in the news or anything we've been talking about, or respond to some comments from other people who've been getting in touch. Peter in Glenmay says, Alex, here's a good idea. Tesco should team up with the Steam Packet and offer Club Card Partner rewards, where your Club Card points are worth double value, like you can do on P&O, Stena, the Channel Tunnel and things like that. That's an interesting idea, yeah. I know for well that when my family go to the Pleasure Beach in Blackpool, we always use our Club Card points there to get tickets for that. So, yeah, that's a good point. Thank you very much, Peter. And Tony's been on saying, Alex, just a thought about your comment about Tesco could increase their prices by 25% to cover the fuel surcharge. For argument's sake, if it costs £1,000 now to ship a container to the island, then adding 25% would mean £1,250. If the contents of the container is worth £10,000, then adding 25% would net £2,500. Secondly, I've just booked a car plus one return to the UK for £286, approximately £45 cheaper than this time last year. Thank you, Tony. There we go, you see. Done a bit of research for me there. Thank you very much for that. Pamela's been on because I mentioned the comment about stale sandwiches that someone said about, old B&B landladies. And Pamela says, my mum did not make stale sandwiches, but I guess without the advantage of having cling film, they may have been a little dry by lunchtime. Thank you, Pamela. It's always good to make me smile. Let's have a look at some more of your texts that are coming in this afternoon. Charles has been on saying, Alex, on a more important note, and actually a very important note, is the Groundle Glen Railway running this weekend? And are they running on Bank Holiday Monday? Oh, thank you very much, Charles. An excuse for a free ad. Yes, Groundle Railway starts on Sunday. It's not running Bank Holiday Monday, but it is running now every Sunday from this Sunday, 11 till 4:30. Get yourself booking your tickets and your steam teas and stuff. Thank you, Charles. Right. 004 says, Alex, I think you're too brainy for our regular phone-ins, as you debate everyone that phones in instead of having the caller have a rant without debate. So all our usual everyday callers are too quiet. Oh, right. Okay, am I too scary like that, am I? Okay. Thank you very much for that. Thank you very much to Desmond. I'm not reading that out. You'll get me in trouble, Desmond. Francis says, what do people think about that awful Orsted sponsoring the Fire Festival in Peel? Once again, Francis, why are they awful? They're a business. Okay, you can be against maybe the fact that you don't want their development, but it's like calling a property developer awful because they want to build houses on a field, So just saying, he said, it's just as bad as offering that £122 million bribe to sweeten up the population. I think it's wrong and borderline criminality. Well, Francis, you're wrong. That it's not a bribe, okay? You're implying corruption, and actually, that's just you using language that really you can't. So it's not a £122 million bribe if they get the ability to put a wind farm in the Irish Sea. We will get rent. It's our seabed, and we will rent it out in the same way that it's not a bribe that people who are cutting down the plantations for DEFA are paying for the wood. Okay, so Francis, careful of your language, please. Happy to debate whether it's right or wrong or whether you want the wind farm here, but just making up slanderous comments, nah, I won't be reading those out again. The wood for the forest was given away for free, says 951. The company who felled the trees agreed to do it for free if they could keep the wood. This came from someone at the forestry board. Is it? Well, from DEFA, I'd love to know. Are we getting confused with the people who were taking down trees that were... there were a lot that were blown down, weren't there? Damaged trees. And then there's ones that have actually been harvested from the plantation. So I'd like to know one way or the other. Ian has been on and says, Alex, regarding the voting system, when it comes to democracy, we were talking about whether MHKs actually have any use at all if when Tynwald passes a vote and then government departments or Treasury says no, and MHKs just sit there and go, oh, it's okay, Treasury say no. Yeah, as if they have the highest power. So what's the point of an MHK? Why are they taking our money each year? Ian says, we need a party system. Although it's not perfect, at least the party winning the election can be held accountable by the voters. This doesn't happen with our system. It has been tried, hasn't it? Liberal Mannin, Labour Party. You've got two Labour Party reps in there, Manx Labour Party reps in there, Ian. That I suppose, in terms of being held accountable, it's you look at your MHK's individual record. I have two MHKs, and I'll tell you now, I'm going to be holding them accountable in September as to whether they get my votes or not. And I've got strong opinions on some of the things they voted for and against, and surely everyone's the same. What else have we got here? Simon says the Irish protests have changed the narrative since the first fuel protest last week, as the people that were affected are suing the organisers of the fuel protest in London on Monday. Then only 10 turned up. The majority of people realise it's like hitting yourself on the head. Oh, I see your point. So, yeah, doing a protest doesn't seem to have much of a result. Gary says, just a note, Alex, as someone brought up about the plantations and the wood and the trees being cut down, as the wagons are wrecking the roads when doing it. So can government please fix it after it's done, especially up at the Gooseneck area? I'd imagine that on the mountain road, the Gooseneck, you could, it's like glass, isn't it, because it's the TT course. But the back road, that's a good point, yeah. A lot of the coast road, because it's had so much hammering, because we're constantly closing the mountain road, it's in a dreadful state. So, yeah, we do need more investment in our roads. I can't really challenge that. Sarah in Ramsey. Oh, a positive one. I just want to say how lovely Pool Dewey is looking, especially with all the cherry trees that Ramsey Town Commissioners have planted. Oh, that's nice. It's a beautiful time of year for cherry blossom, isn't it? So, Cece says, happy Friday, Alex and all. Regarding the exodus of the plantations, I hope they have reserved plenty of that lovely timber here for the Manx to use. I don't think there's a shortage if you go to DEFA and the sawmill of timber, is there? But fingers crossed. S says, I'm a bit concerned by the number of people online saying that they're relocating here, often to escape UK politics. Not because of where they've come from, but because of our infrastructure and essential services are already overstretched with no apparent plan in place to upgrade them. I think I remember saying this before, isn't it? The Isle of Man seems to have this vision of attract the people. So, if they come, we will build it, as opposed to the other way around. If you build it, they will come. So we don't really have the healthcare system, the roads, the public transport network system in place to accommodate it all, because we're on the back foot. We haven't got the money. We've spent it all, apart from a ferry terminal in Liverpool, which it's nice to have a steel shed with a few toilets. And H says he prefers my approach to Mannin Line. Thank you, H. It's nice. 318 says the opposite. It says, it's an opinion show. People are entitled to their opinions. You seem to cross-examine everyone that has their own opinion. You're not supposed to do that for a listener. I am. I'm meant to challenge when you present things as fact. It's an opinion program. You're entitled to your opinion. But if you're going to put something across, it's not a rant program. But anyway, 318, you know the phone number. Challenge me on it. 66 13 68. 350 says, is anyone else having problems with the internet? That would be interesting, actually. If you're having problems with the internet, let us know. Gaz has been on saying, people are being invited to comment on wind turbines, but without a crucial bit of information. How much will we pay for our electricity? Well, that's the point, isn't it? Andy brings this up regularly on Mannin Line, and no one can ever answer it. Okay? If we're going to go for green energy, when there is the initial investment, but not just for wind turbines, solar panels and things like this, and there is an element of maintenance costs, but what are we going to pay? When we get our bill through at the end of the month, what is that cost going to be? No one can give us an answer, can they? Thank you very much to 467. Thank you very much for including a text that just used the words corruption, so it got deleted. Bit of responsibility, just saying. Thank you very much for your company in the last hour, even though it has been quiet, because I'm obviously putting people off. Stick around. Michelle Kane is up next on 1 to 3. Thank you very much for producing this afternoon, Michelle. After that, Mark Burrows here on the afternoon show. 5 o'clock, Christy DeHaven with The Home Run. And then Friday Sport tonight with Rob Pritchard. Chris Kinley with Greatest Hits. And Dave Moore sitting in for Rhiannon Evans after hours tonight from 10. I shall be back Bank Holiday Monday morning, doing a bit of breakfast. Until then, have a wonderful weekend. Fingers crossed the weather improves, eh?